we get the Illinois stuff so ugly.
QCSportsInferno.com presents another Monday edition of ZRadio with Mike Ackerman. I'm Corey Schrader. If you want to give us a call, 309-524-5558. We've got another weekend that has pretty much passed with football. Of course, we've got the Bears and the Chargers tonight, but a lot of big local news, some coming out of Illinois, some coming out of Missouri. And, of course, the big talk is Iowa, but let's touch on Illinois first. They fired their athletic director, Mike Thomas, finally, I guess, right?
Well,
I guess you could say finally.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it was such a horrible choice to begin with to hire Beckman. But, I mean, there's just been so many issues. They have the girls' basketball issues, but from what even the report today said that they couldn't find anything wrong at the girls' basketball program other than the coach that was there maybe was inappropriate at times. That was on previous reports, but he's gone. But for the most part, it was all about the football program, and the football program was a mess. I mean, just a complete and utter mess. I mean, they fired him. It said I was reading the report today, and some of the things on there were just here's the thing. You have a feeling that some of this goes on in a lot of the colleges or a lot of the big universities, but had players coming forward through social. This was back, just about 6 months ago, back in May, saying football players complained through social media and regular media, and then made formal complaints with the university that the football staff wasn't managing their injuries correctly, that they were trying to remove scholarships from fourth-year players just because this sounds like something the SEC would do. They were trying to remove scholarships from players who they didn't think were going to, who they didn't think were going to be players for them. They did over 100 interviews.
They did a report today. Of course, it's the University of Illinois. They said they haven't found anything on Mike Thomas, in regards to those situations. But you have to let him go because these are the people he hired. This is the mess that got into based on his hires. And, you don't know what any future allegations or incidences that might occur with the university, not only in just the major sports, but some of the other lesser-known sports out there. But, Illinois just needs a whole change of that whole athletic department and just kind of a total reboot. They're a mess.
They are a mess.
I'm glad Iowa is not like that.
They're a complete mess. I mean, can you imagine if Kirk Ferentz was the coach at the University of Illinois with the fertile recruiting ground that they should have there? I mean, he'd be a top 10 team every year. And I know it's kind of interesting that coming from us who, have kind of been down on him, until recently. But I don't think we ever really questioned his coaching ability. It was a matter of, for him, just getting the recruits and things like that. And he's got some now. But if he had those amount of people to recruit with, one, he'd do a good job. Two, you wouldn't have these scandals. I mean, these are insane.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Ferentz, when you look back and you remember some of these players, and of course, Steve Alford, made a bad name for himself around Iowa because of the Pierce but Kirk Ferentz is just. I'm just. I'm fine. The program isn't a mess.
Yeah. Well,
and I like the program to where it was last year, where everybody was calling for his head, and he even realized, what, we got to do some changing, and they did a lot of changing from the recruiting to everything else, and that's a signal of a good program to at least recognize. You can keep your coaching philosophy, which he has, but going around and finding the people you need to fit that, that's good. The problem with Illinois, they can never find anybody. They can't get any cohesiveness with any of their programs to be successful. And that's the problem. And then you add to the incidences with the players, and it's just a storm of bad. They had to get rid of them.
Well, with Illinois, it's like their major programs are the ones having the big problems, and I'd like to know why. But because, say, like their golf team was one of the best in the country this year. The baseball team won a Big Ten record of 4 games in a row. So they have some good lesser teams, but for whatever reason, they're bad. Their main programs aren't that good, and they're embroiled in controversy. Look at the basketball team goes on a trip to Europe, and they send a kid home and kick him off the team.
Right.
That's insane. That they keep having these issues.
It's a culture. It's just a culture. And it comes down to getting the right players, too. Maybe part of the philosophy is, you have to, sacrifice maybe a 4-star, 5-star guy who has some character questions and bring in that 2, 3-star guy where, off the field, A+, just needs to form his ability and his athleticism or hers, into the program.
Right.
And maybe that's what it is.
Well,
maybe they,
But you got to find.
I don't know.
You got to find the right guy first. They're going for splashy, hardcore, competitive type guys, and there's. And I think the pressure to win is so great that they're just getting the wrong people. When you start looking at some of these things, it said, just a quote from here: Beckman discouraged athletes from seeking assistance from sports medicine personnel. When players sought medical assistance, he challenged or questioned medical judgment. And the head football athletic trainer left the program repeatedly because of his interference. That's a guy who is just feeling such intense pressure to win that he's going to do whatever it takes. And damn the kids.
Well, yeah, and then, it trickles down. Most of these other, successful programs, okay, you tell me, Doc, can he play or can't he play?
Right. Bottom line.
Is he 50-50? Okay, he's 50-50.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm going to go to the player. How do you feel? How's the pain tolerance? I can handle it.
Right.
Okay, well, let's practice. And if it hurts, we stop. You're done.
Right.
You look at C.J. Beathard. If me and you had a hip injury and a groin pull, we're relegated to the bar and drinking a beer.
Right.
We ain't going to go exercise.
Right.
But in the case of C.J. Beathard, if he says, look, I'm fine. I can deal with the pain. The pain is fine. It's just the limitation of it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, then play.
Right.
But if the doctor had told Kirk Ferentz that he absolutely has to rest,
he'd rest
he
him.
can't do this, then he rested.
Yeah.
He's done.
He'd rest him. Because here, another specific quote. It says, the line between aggressive coaching and inappropriate influence regarding medical decisions were clearly and systematically crossed. It said that there was clear instances of criticism in public and belittling comments made in public of players that were injured. That's insane.
Right.
Can you imagine? I mean, can you? That's crazy to me.
It's and they, like I said, they got to change everything, and then they got to sit there and bring in people and say, we value you as a coach, we trust what you're going to do, we want you to build this program up,
Right.
to the standards, not only on the field but in the classroom. Don't put the pressure. You have to win, or you're fired after a couple of years.
Right. Right.
Give them the confidence to build the program. And, you look at Fran McCaffrey and how he's built the basketball program back. I mean, we're just hitting Tom Davis era stuff. It takes time to build.
Right.
Let them build. If they start getting positive stuff on the field, they start hitting a little bit more consistent bowl games, even though maybe it's the tax player or the mumbojumbo.com stuff. Hey, it's a positive, it's a step in the right direction. And if you improve just a little bit every year, then make sure the coaches realize that, hey, you're secure. It's still a business, but at the same time, you got to give a coach and his staff a little leeway.
Well, if you go back the last 25 years, I think we looked at this earlier several months ago. I mean, they've only had I don't know if they've had maybe back-to-back winning seasons once. I mean, it's
right.
For a program that should be just really at minimum Iowa every year. They just don't win. And how can you miss that much on coaches? I mean, you went after Zucker. Zucker couldn't even win at Florida. How is he going to win?
Right.
How is he going to win consistently in Illinois?
Because you sold it. You sold it as you got the Florida guy type of thing.
Right, but they can sell it all they want. That doesn't mean that that's the reality. There's no way, if I want to win, there's no way I'm going for that guy. He couldn't win in Florida.
No, I agree.
With a proven track record of winning. They can sell it to the people all they want. That doesn't mean that. I mean, I can sell some ice cubes to some Eskimos too. That doesn't mean they need it.
You know what? They should start plucking people from the Iowa staff.
Yeah.
Kansas State hasn't been bad.
Well, and I was
listening. Look what Barry Alvarez did to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I agree. And they all had better recruiting ground than what Iowa and Wisconsin, Kansas State had. I was listening to.
I've heard a lot of things though with the Chicago recruits going to Champaign, that a lot of the real good ones want to just leave because they don't want to be near the fear of the Chicago. It's kind of like here. We're tired of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go to Florida. They're tired of the big city. They go to Champaign. They're an hour away. They want to get away.
They want something completely different. I mean, it's Champaign. Here's my opinion: is I've been there, and Champaign's 150 miles away from there. I mean, it'd be like going from here to there, so it's not that close. But it's just a bad stadium. I mean, it's a bad stadium. When we were there, we couldn't find a whole lot of tailgating. We went for an Illinois-Purdue game several years ago, and it was just a bad atmosphere. It was not enjoyable from a football standpoint. So I don't know what their amenities are like or their facilities. I have no clue what any of that's like. So that's hard for me to say. But I know from back then from a purely football standpoint, I wouldn't have wanted to go play there.
Oh, no, and you haven't heard anything about them rebuilding their facilities for anything.
No.
I mean, you look at, Iowa had crap facilities for a while, football-wise, and now they're one of the best in the country.
Right.
But you don't see that commitment in Illinois.
Right.
And, and that's why you get a guy in there to build up the program I'm not talking national championships. I'm talking a consistent track record of starting to hit bowl games. Once you start doing that, then you'll start getting the boosters and the donations. You start building up the facilities, and then you'll start attracting people. But you can't just sell it, short-sighted. Say, hey, look, we got this ex-Florida coach who wants to come to the Big Ten.
Right.
And he's popular for 2 seasons, and then you realize they've only won 4 games in those 2 seasons, and then you're back at the cycle again.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just a matter. You got to find the right guy. I don't care what anybody says about Nebraska being amazing all them years. That's because they had one of the best coaches in the country for his time. Same thing happened at Iowa. Iowa was so bad for such a long time, then they got Hayden Fry. Duke, I know that they had some good teams before, but Duke was no good at basketball until they had, for a long time, before they had Mike Krzyzewski. Coaches are the world to these kids.
Look, since I was, 6, 5 years old, I've only seen 2 Hawkeye coaches in my lifetime in football.
Absolutely.
That's good stability right there.
Well, and that's it's funny you say that, because when I was listening to the Big Ten Network today, that Jay Lehman, who was the linebacker down there, was talking, and he said basically that same thing. He basically was trying to compare, and you talked about this before, how everybody likes to compare themselves to Iowa, unless you're, Michigan or Ohio State. Everybody else wants to compare themselves. And he said, look at the stability that Iowa's had over the last 30 years of football. Illinois hasn't had that. They've had how many head coaches? They haven't had that stability that these guys can build a program. And he said Illinois fans would be happy having Iowa's program. Go to a bowl game almost every year and be really, really good every 4 to 5 years. He said he said Illinois would be happy with that, and they just don't get it.
You see that statistic? And it said the most bowl wins by a Big Ten coach.
Yeah.
What, first was Barry Alvarez.
Yep.
Second was Kirk Ferentz.
Yep.
Those are Iowa people.
Yep. It's because they do it the right way.
That's good. I mean, Iowa has stabilized 2 programs, their own and in Wisconsin.
Well, in Kansas State.
In Kansas State.
Yeah,
correct.
And now they're going after Arkansas.
And Oklahoma went back to
Oklahoma.
prominence.
Yep.
So, Illinois, and I'm not trying to say to Illinois you got to find the Kirk Ferentz. I don't care if the guy runs a spread office or whatever. Just be consistent.
Right.
And consistent isn't, you might have an off, for Iowa, a little more recently it's been, the bad years have gone on to like years in a row, where for a while there it was, good years, bad year. Then you had a couple good years, bad year. Yeah. With Illinois, it's just bad. Oh, my gosh, they did good. And then it's bad. And, nothing is consistent there.
Right.
And that's what they lack.
Right.
And once they start to get that consistent, they're still going to be a bad program.
Well, and I agree, and I think that's what – I was one of the people who was standing there going, I don't want Illinois to get rid of Ron Zook.
Right.
I want him to stay in there because I think Illinois is a sleeping giant football-wise. If they get the right coach in there, they would be able to be a really good team. But you got to get the right coach, and you got to get a coach who probably, for at least right now, is going to have to deal with some sub top 25 facilities.
Well, and that's why you got to find that right coach that can find the 2-star recruits and the walk-ons and turn them into something.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's kept Iowa alive is they find these guys that people pass on. I mean, Illinois could have grabbed them with scholarship offers if they wanted to.
Right. Right.
But these are kids that, said, yeah, I'll take a walk on. And then after a couple of years, all of a sudden they're awarded scholarships. And, it's stuff like that Illinois doesn't do.
Right. Right. No,
they don't do that. And I think with Zuck, the problem is his focus was he used his Florida, resume, trying to get those big time recruits that going up against Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama. And by the time he would lose out, the Iowas, the Michigan States, the Wisconsins, they're grabbing these people.
Right.
And I think that was part of Zuck's problem. But they need someone that they have to look at the program realistically.
Right. Right. And they don't. To me, again, I still look at it and think that they should be a consistent, good team. And for whatever reason, they're not.
And coaching.
It's coaching.
Well, obviously, it's the program.
I think it's coaching.
I mean, the program's a mess.
Right. Well, I'm looking at it right now.
And the president of Illinois needs to just realize that and go from there.
I'm looking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking right now, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players since 2000 have been drafted in the first round from Illinois, which actually is a little bit more than what I thought it'd be, to be quite honest. But they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. They've had 29 players drafted into the NFL since this decade. So less than 2 per year. Less than 2 per season.
That's where it comes down to that recruiting, where you get a decent player, but you don't have a good supporting class around them, know?
Right.
And when you don't have that supporting class, you can have the best quarterback in the league. They could have a Desmond King, but if they don't have a C.J. Beathard or the running back depth that they have, the 2 stars, to support all that, then they're nobody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they just don't get it that often. Every once in a while they'll get that big recruit and they throw him into the Wolves right away, and sometimes he shows up and sometimes he doesn't. But you don't see that very often. You don't see that very often, that recruit come in and play.
Well, they don't have an identity. What's Iowa's identity? Smash mouth football and offensive linemen. That's
right.
Their identity.
Right.
What's Illinois' identity? I don't know. Wisconsin's identity. They like to rush the football, smash mouth football, offensive line.
Right. I'm with you. I have no idea what Illinois' identity is.
It's a couple good players and hopefully a couple others put it together for them.
Right.
And they don't have the coaching to coach them up to accomplish that.
Right. I agree. I don't know what the answer there is other than to get a good coach who will invest in the system, not try and if they're trying to win year one and be amazing year one, then that means they're going to cut corners, they're going to do things that they shouldn't be doing. They need to go in and start from the bottom and completely rebuild the system, 1, and 2, they need to upgrade their facilities.
Just find a guy that's been with a winning program and he might not be the big name in the paper type, but find that guy, put him in there, and let him build the program.
Right.
Find a guy who's been coaching, maybe played for an Alabama or a Michigan or an Iowa or Michigan State, programs that have been successful and have put out, constant winning football teams, bowl teams, and let them build. Let them build off of that attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Forget tapping into the defensive coordinator of Florida State.
Right.
Or the defensive coordinator of LSU. Sure. Oh, we got the defensive coordinator of LSU. We got the defensive coordinator of TCU.
Right.
Yeah, well, TCU's defense sucks.
Right.
Okay? Just because you hired the guy from TCU doesn't mean you're going to get TCU football.
Well, and that's all they'd be looking at out of it is say they hired a big name like Ron Zook, who again couldn't win at Florida.
Right.
That's all they'd be getting out of it.
Yeah, he was just a spur coattail.
Right.
It's just let it, and don't go, and don't do the mistake that Iowa basketball did and freaking, we got the coach of the year, Tom Licklider.
Oh, my gosh.
When you find out, probably worst to hire, or worst Hawkeye hire in my lifetime, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't think that you could get worse than Steve Alford, but you certainly did.
Oh, yeah. He was, he downgraded from Steve Alford. That was bad. And I'm glad they got rid of him quickly.
Yes.
I think I'm glad they realized it and said, this is not good basketball. This is hickory basketball.
This is basketball that nobody wants to come watch. I mean,
right.
What they thought they would try and do is just like Wisconsin tried to copy off of our football program. They thought they'd copy off of Wisconsin's basketball program. Well, you know what? That's not what Iowa does as a basketball program. Go back to George Raveline and Lute Olson or Tom Davis. Iowa fans want to see up and down the court.
Yep, and it works.
Yeah, Iowa fans want to see up and down the court. So it's.
I didn't
bad.
want to take 5 passes before you shoot crap.
No, I remember sitting there watching that introductory press conference with my brother, and sitting there listening to him going, I don't like this guy. I don't like him.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? You can validate that now by the fact that nobody else has picked him back up.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like him. I didn't like him at the press, before the press conference.
Yeah.
I thought, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a bad hire. Now, the good part is right now we don't have to worry about that with football. The game the other day, I was pleasantly. What surprised me about the Iowa football game the other day was that Nebraska was able to run on Iowa. That's what stunned me.
And the way I look at it, I think they were just geared up to Sudfeld a little too much.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about it.
And they, with the spread offense and all of that crap, and, then you try to overcompensate, and, they tried to stay in their lanes too much, couldn't get the outside corners in the first half because they were worried about Sudfeld, taking it and doing what he does with it. And the running game. But what I like about it is they took Indiana out of their game.
Yes.
Indiana was a fast-paced team, and they knew that Iowa loved to eat the clock. They were clock eaters, and they wanted their defense to rest a little. Slow down Indiana.
Yeah.
They couldn't get in their pace.
Well, what I liked, too, was when you watched an Iowa defender make a tackle, they got their butt up and got ready to play.
Oh, yeah, they were like
They were
questionable calls and straight up.
Yeah, they were the Iowa defense was moving quicker to get ready than the Indiana offense was.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the other
Iowa was on it. I mean, Iowa, I wasn't too worried because of Indiana's defense. You know, I'm a little bit, there was worry because their offense was pretty good. But, hey, they did a pretty darn good job with them. And I like the fact, I think Beathard being hurt is going to help him next year.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought him to be a pocket passer.
I thought he threw the ball better today than he has in a long time. The only thing for him that he doesn't throw really, really well right now is the bomb.
Is the what?
The bomb. Long way downfield.
He hasn't been able to really do it. And I was fine with that because it opens up the field a little bit more. Even those close ones, as a defensive back, you're still sitting there going, man, he was like 3 yards off of that. If he just cools it a bit, I got to play back a little bit because this receiver beat me deep, and then you're opening up the running game.
Right. No, but I mean, every once in a while you got to hit that pass. I mean, you got somebody running downfield, you got to hit them.
Oh, without a doubt, for sure.
And he misses those more consistently than you'd like him to miss those. But that's it. I mean, I thought other than that, I thought he played. He's been throwing the ball pretty well, and he actually did have one downfield that, for some reason, Jabinic Smith wasn't looking. That one down the seam. I don't know.
That was a perfect pass.
Oh, it was perfect.
Right in his gut.
Yeah. If he would have had Velcro on his shirt, it would have stuck there.
Yeah. No, that was great. No, look, they're a good football team. And for the people that don't realize it, then either you're not watching football or you're just dumb. They're a good team. Even if they lose, say they lose the game before they hit the Big Ten championship game, they're still a good team.
Right.
I mean, they're good.
Right.
They're good. They're 9-0.
I agree. You know what? But let's look at that though. We talked about it a little bit last week before the game against the game that we did, the Assumption game we did last week. We got a chance to talk about the college football poll, but we didn't get a ton to talk about, or we did talk a little bit about it last Wednesday too. But Iowa's ninth in the CFP, right?
Yeah.
And then 8th in the AP, and I call it the UP. I still say the UPI, but 8th in the AP, and then the coaches poll. Now, you and I talked a little bit earlier today, and we were talking about where should Iowa be ranked. I've got my top 8, and we can go through it if you want, and then kind of tell me where you got people ranked, or however you want to do it. But mine is significantly different than what they have theirs.
Oh yeah, no, let's go through it.
I'll go through who I have, and then I'll tell you why I have them there. I've got Clemson number 1 because they're good wins, and what I counted as a good win are teams that not were ranked, but are ranked right now. That's what I counted as a good win. So right now, Clemson's 9-0. They got good wins over Notre Dame and Florida State, both of them at home, though. They have no bad losses. So they got 2 wins over top 25s, the big one over Notre Dame, and then their toughest game left is North Carolina, and that will most likely be in the ACC championship game. Their schedule is weak the rest of the way. I mean, the people want to talk about Iowa's schedule. Their schedule is Cupcake City. Second, I have Ohio State, 9-0, but they have no good wins and they have no bad losses. And really, as much as I hate to say it, because mine's a little bit different reasoning. We talk about the national brands of, we'll talk about it later about the bigger schools and they get the benefit of the doubt and blah, blah, blah. Well, I look at Ohio State and think, okay, they've still got a second-string quarterback who won the national championship for, and they got the guy who could be the Heisman Trophy runner-up now that Fournette had a bad game, Ezekiel Elliott, running for him. And to me, the difference between them and other schools is they're still the defending champion, and they still haven't lost. Until somebody beats them, you've got to be significantly better than what they're doing. I think Clemson has been, but I don't think anybody else has knocked them out from the iPad, or from what you're seeing, the iPass test or whatever the hell they're calling it nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm
with you so far on those.
Number 3, I've got Oklahoma State. They made a big jump this week. They were in the teens before this week. The biggest reason I have them there is because they beat TCU handily. They have no bad losses. Now, we're going to really find out about Oklahoma because the rest of their schedule has been crap. Up to TCU, the rest of their schedule has been crap. We're going to really find out over the next few weeks how good they are because they got Oklahoma and Baylor the last 2 weeks of the season. If they win those 2 games, they're in the college football playoff. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. If they win those 2, they're in. But we also don't know how good TCU was at this point either. Even though they beat them, we don't know how good TCU was because TCU had some bad or had not really played anybody either. We don't know how good really the Pac-12 was because the way that they scheduled them, the way that the Big 12, the way that their conference people did the schedule was none of their good teams played each other till the last 3-4 games of the season. So they're just now starting to play each other. Other than that, it's been Cupcake City. So that's who I've got 3, but it's a questionable 3, just because we still don't know. Plus, I didn't want to seem like too much of a homer. So then at number 4, I've got Iowa, 9-0. They're the only team of the top 8 that have 2 wins against teams that are in the top 25 on the road, at Northwestern, at Wisconsin. They beat both of them on the road. Nobody else in the top 8 has done that. They don't have a tough schedule their next 3. Although we saw the other day that Nebraska will be tougher than what people think it's going to be. That will be a worrisome game. So that will be a tough game. The day after Thanksgiving, I believe, is when they'll play that one. Then if they beat a Ohio State, a Michigan State, a Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, especially if it's Ohio State, if they could beat one of them, to me they got to be in the tournament. They have to be. I don't. Yeah. The only way they're not.
I was in if they go undefeated. If they're not, I'm done with anything NCAA and how they predict. I give up.
Yeah, it would be bad. So I have them 4th. 5th is Baylor. Baylor's undefeated. They score 1 million points a game. They've played nobody. Nobody.
No, they haven't played anybody.
They've played all bad teams to this point. Now, we're going to find out how good they are the next 3 weeks because their next 3 games are all against teams in the top 15. They win those, they're in. But that takes Oklahoma State out because they're one of them. So,
right.
And plus you got to look at it too. Ohio State and Iowa both aren't going to be in the college football playoff. One of them would make it, and one of them wouldn't.
Yeah.
After Baylor at number 6, I have Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they're always one of the national favorites. They're going to get votes no matter what. They have 1 win against the top 25 team, and that was at Temple. They also have their 1 loss was also the best loss of anybody in the country probably, It was a 2-point loss at Clemson, the number 1 team in the poll. So you got to give them at least some credit. They stayed in that game. They're going to have one more chance against a top 15 team, and that's Stanford. They got them coming up, I think, the last game of the season, and it's at Stanford. So they're going to get another chance for a big win on the road. After them, at number 7, I've got Alabama. Alabama is one well, no, I guess Clemson has it too. But Alabama's got 2 wins against current top 25 teams. But they're also the only team on the list that has a loss against a non-top 25 team. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Alabama or the Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bulls. You lose to a bad team, and Mississippi's not bad, but you lose to a team that's not rated or not in even close to that category. You're not worthy. I don't care if you have beat Wisconsin and LSU. And let's not forget, Wisconsin and LSU were both at home too. Wisconsin was at a neutral site, but basically that was a home game.
Yeah, they're in freaking Dallas.
Right. So that's I don't want to hear it. For them to be uprated in the top 4 is absolutely asinine. Or are we just throwing out the fact that they lost to Ole Miss? That loss doesn't count? I mean, is this like something where you get to throw out your best win and your best loss and then take the rest of it? I don't get it. I don't get that at all. How you can take a team that lost to a team that's not in the top 25 at home. They were at home when they lost to them, and you put them in there in the playoff. If somebody could explain that to me, I'd love to hear it.
Well, it's because it's Nick Saban, and it's the history. It's the history of that program.
Yeah.
They're being ranked due to what they've done the last 5 years.
Right. The history can kiss my butt, I can tell you that.
No, exactly. Every ranking should be the same, and it should only center on 1 year.
Yeah.
That current year you're in.
I agree. 8th, I only
Granted, Alabama had a good game against LSU, but they have a really bad loss.
Yeah, they have. They're the only one in the top 8 who has a bad loss. So you can't put them up there. Plain and simple. You can't put them up there. I don't care if they've got 6 other good wins. You can't put them up there.
Yep.
The last team I have.
I wouldn't vote for those guys if they were 28-0.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Cowherd, piece of crap. LSU is the last team I have in my top 8. 7-1, good wins against top 25 teams. They beat Florida and they won at Mississippi State. No bad losses. Their only loss was to Alabama, even though they lost convincingly. If they had beaten Alabama, they would be number 1 in my eyes. Because they would have had 3 wins against top 25 teams. And 2 of them would have been on the road. So they would have been number 1 had they ended up beating Alabama, but they didn't. So that's my top 8. LSU can get back into it. They got to win out, and some of these other teams are going to lose. I mean, if you look at Notre Dame, I know another one that I don't have in the rankings, but a lot of people have them up higher than what Iowa is Stanford. Stanford has beaten USC and UCLA. What's the big deal about those wins? UCLA might be rated now, but USC isn't. So what's the big deal?
It's because they rode the high of, at the time, USC was number 6, but at the time, UCLA was number 18.
Yeah. I don't give a frog's fat ass. They're not there now.
Right.
So, again, are we supposed to pretend that they didn't lose at Northwestern? Are we supposed to pretend that didn't happen, even though Iowa beat them by Northwestern by 30?
30.
30, yeah.
30.
Yeah.
That was a blowout.
Right. Right. So I just don't get how people can have Stanford at number 7 and Iowa at number 8. That just blows my mind. I mean, they lost to Northwestern. They beat Central Florida. Then they beat USC, who, yeah, that's fine. You were number 6. You're not ranked now because you suck. They beat Oregon State, suck. Beat Arizona, suck. UCLA is, I think they were 18 then. They're about 17 or 18 now. Then they beat Washington, and they beat Washington State, and they beat Colorado. Who cares? They got Oregon this week, even though, and then they got Notre Dame the last game of the season. But I don't even have, they might be number 9. I don't know. It came down to, I was looking at them and Florida to round out some of the last few spots, and I just cut it off at 8 because I didn't care about it after that.
Well, first off, it's not nice to talk about the Hawkeyes in college football playoffs in only its second year.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good.
Absolutely.
I agree with you on Clemson. I agree with you on Ohio State, and I agree with you on Iowa. But I would put, and I think, and I know rewarding the undefeated team is the way to go. And I think Notre Dame's loss. Now, I can't stand Notre Dame, so this pains me to say this. I think Notre Dame's lone loss and the rest of their schedule beats Oklahoma State beating, I think, one of the most overrated teams in college football of TCU.
Yeah, who barely beat Minnesota, let's not forget, early in the season.
Correct. And struggled against, yeah. So I would put Notre Dame in there at this point.
And I don't have a problem with that at all, even though I don't like Notre Dame. I don't have a problem with that at all because it was a 2-point loss at Clemson a couple weeks after they lost their starting quarterback.
Yep.
And I think we're going to find out with Notre Dame that, like I said, they've got Stanford here coming up in a couple of weeks, so that'll be a tough game for them. Well, and I think the interesting part will be for the Pac-12 is if these guys all knock each other out. Or not the Pac-12, the Big 12. I keep saying Pac-12. The Big 12 is if these guys all knock each other out.
Yeah, because I mean, that's how the schedule sets up, is they could hurt them.
Right. Well, they were stupid the way they did it.
You can blame it on talking about Bowlby in that, because it's his job to make his conference competitive on the national stage.
Right.
And I think you're kind of hurting teams based on not spreading out the schedule a little bit better. Historically who the good teams are.
Yeah.
You can plan it out a little bit better with your scheduling.
They don't give.
I think this year's scheduling hurts the Big 12 more than it has in the last couple.
Yeah, they don't give their best teams a chance to come back from a loss.
It's like the basketball in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is so good, up and down, top to bottom. I mean, they're still the best, I think, in the country,
right,
as a conference as a whole. But it's the classic knock each other out.
Right.
Now that the Big Ten is split in football, the East versus the West, I think that helps the Big Ten in the future.
Oh, I think so. I think so because when you look at like Oklahoma, Oklahoma's got Baylor, TCU, and Oklahoma State the last 3 weeks. How stupid is that? I mean, that's just dumb to do it like that.
They could have spread that out beginning, middle, and end better.
Yes. Yeah, they did it all for TV. That's all they did it for. They knew those were going to be the best teams, and they put them there the last few weeks because basically, because they don't have a conference title game. They don't have a. You got to have 14 teams to have a conference title game. So they ended up, or no, you have to have 12 teams, I think, and I think they've only got 10 teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they only got 10 teams.
You have to have. Yeah.
You have to have 12 teams, and they only got 10. So it's ridiculous the way they did it, but that's how they did it, is to set up almost like a tournament format for those 3 teams.
Yeah.
It's all about the TV ratings. That's all it's about. And I think it's
right.
Silly.
Maybe it's because they want to make money for the conference and try to attract other teams. But you lost. Nebraska. You lost Nebraska. You lost
Texas A&M, Missouri,
who's now in shambles. But
yeah, Texas A&M.
You lost teams. That's not good on your conference when you lose teams.
No,
I don't see anyone in the Big Ten. Any of the core of the Big Ten, the Iowas, Wisconsin, the Ohio State, I don't see any of them leading.
Right. And the funny part is because they've correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't the teams Missouri and Texas A&M won like 3 conference titles since they've been there?
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
But the SEC is so good.
But I think you're right. That does hurt them. But that's why, at this moment, because Baylor's schedule and TCU's schedule is bad up until this week against Oklahoma State.
Right.
It's just and you look at Baylor's, that's a horrible schedule.
Right.
And they have the goal to look at Iowa's schedule.
Right. Oh, I know. It's insane. It's ridiculous.
And that's why I put a Notre Dame in there, because their one loss to the number 1 Clemson, that's only by a couple points. That's a good loss.
Right.
You could look at it. I would say right now, Notre Dame has the best good loss team that beats Baylor's undefeated.
Right. Well, especially
Iowa's in there because they've had a good first half of the schedule. They're undefeated. They have beaten 3 ranked opponents. Well, Pittsburgh's not ranked anymore. But your 2 ranked opponents that you beat were all on the road.
Yep.
You crushed one and you held the other to 6 points.
Yeah. No, it's
that's good.
So where would you?
That's awesome.
So where would you put Alabama then?
Well, after, so I would say Clemson, Ohio State, Iowa, Notre Dame. I'd go to Oklahoma State. What helped Alabama over Stanford for me was their win over LSU.
Absolutely.
If we would have said this a week ago, I might have put Stanford ahead because Northwestern's better than Ole Miss.
Yes, no doubt about it.
So I might have put Stanford ahead in that category. So
you'd put
I'd go, okay, I'd go Clemson, Ohio State, Iowa, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Stanford, Baylor. I'd put LSU then Baylor. I'm hard on Baylor. Because LSU's only losses to Alabama, so I'm putting Baylor behind LSU.
Yeah.
So it would be Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Iowa, Oklahoma State, Alabama, Stanford, LSU.
Well, I certainly, I don't think I don't have Stanford that high. I just don't think that they're nearly as good. But that could be.
I don't know if I could split. I don't know if I can put what. I might even squeeze Oklahoma up there.
Oh, I agree. But Oklahoma's loss was Texas, who's not a good team.
That's a bad team. That's the problem. Because that's a bad loss.
Right.
If Iowa State shut them out 24-0, and you've lost to.
Right. Absolutely, that's a bad loss.
So, but Stanford, I think, is still a quality loss because it was a Big Ten team. It was on the road.
I agree. It's a quality loss. We're going to find out. I mean, they've still got a couple chances to prove themselves. They've still got a couple chances to prove themselves here in the next few weeks with Notre Dame and Oregon. Even though Oregon's not as good, it's still going to be. It's not a top 25 win, but it's still a good win.
Right.
So they've got some room. Now, to me, what I would do if I was in charge of things is I would go 8 teams, and each of your Power 5 schools, the champion would be in. Each of your Power 5 conferences, the champion would be in, and then you have 3 at-large bids.
I agree with that because your Power 5 brings a lot of money to the table.
Yeah. With
its fans, with its success, with the people that show up to the bowl games.
Yep. You start. Instead of playing on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, you play Christmas Eve, Christmas Day.
Yeah, and you reward some of the maybe not necessarily a Power 5, but maybe someone that snuck up there with a couple upsets, maybe.
Absolutely.
A couple Power 5 upsets, and then they go undefeated in their conference. Then all of a sudden, you let them in.
Well,
that gives hope to those types of schools.
Well, say like this year, then you'd have Clemson from the ACC. Let's say it's Ohio State from the Big Ten. You'd have right now Alabama probably from the ACC. You'd have Stanford from the Pac-10, and you'd have Baylor, at least the way the rankings are right now, is the highest ranking team not in our ranking, but in the idiots' rankings. You have them. Those are your 5. So then you've got Notre Dame, who's 6. You've probably got to have Iowa, who would be 7. And then either Oklahoma State or LSU would be your 8th. But then that leaves you've got teams out there that teams here are going to lose. So you're going to knock some of these out. But you got a University of Houston who's 9-0. Where was Memphis at? Memphis just lost this week. But Memphis was 8-0. So Houston would be.
Lost. That was a bad loss.
Houston would be the only other one. The only problem with Houston is they didn't play anybody. Tennessee, Chattanooga, Louisville, Texas State, Tulsa, SMU, Tulane, Central Florida, Vanderbilt, Cincinnati. But say like in years past, you would have had Boise State in there. Utah was from the Mountain West for a while. You have Fresno States, those in there that you would have been able to throw in there. San Jose State, Slippery Rock.
I think that would help. Like, remember how Boise State was pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't part of a power conference. I think the smartest thing that TCU did was join the Big 12.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of like the Boise State type.
Right.
And you didn't know it. And I think in a playoff format, the way they have it now, I think those type of teams, the TCUs, the Boise State types, that aren't part of a major conference, I think it hurts them. So I think going to 8 might help them.
Right.
Well,
and it would be huge ratings too, because me and the other guys in my family. Wow, Pau Gasol is really bad at defense. But me and the other guys in my family usually go to some kind of bar or something in the mid-afternoon on Christmas Eve before we go do the rest of the family stuff. And last year it was like the Bahamas Bowl that was on. Well, you know what? Play 2 games on Christmas Eve, 2 games on Christmas Day, and then there's your 8 teams, and then play, and then you got down to 4 teams, right? Yep, 8 to 4. I can do my math, and then play 2 games on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it should be that simple.
I think so, because you still get a month off between.
Yeah. I mean,
The end of November, because Iowa's they'll have the Big Ten championship game, but their last conference game is Black Friday, so
they'd give them 3 weeks.
yeah.
They'd get 3 weeks off, which is plenty of time.
So at minimum, you get a double bye. You get a double bye week.
Which most of them are going to be going through finals about that time.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
To me, go 8. You got 5. You have your 5 majors, and then you got 3 others come in. And one of them that's always going to be in, there'd be some kind of something in there that say if Notre Dame's a top 8 team, they automatically go in.
Yep.
If they're a top 8 team in the college football poll or whatever you say, they're well. I mean, regardless, they would go in anyway. But yeah, I would take some of this out of the hands of the committee. Let the committee can do their rankings. That's fine. But treat it like you do the NCAA basketball tournament. Your top 5 or your Power 5 schools all get an automatic bid, and then you take your next 3.
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
it's going to help out everybody, and I think it keeps it interesting. Now, some of these bowl games, I think, helps keep it interesting because, look, I mean, if the Hawkeyes get to the college, playoff, they're still going probably to the Rose Bowl,
right?
And probably playing a Stanford, and then we can end that argument who was better.
Yes.
But that still garners interest, but to allow other teams in, I'd be for it.
Absolutely.
I'd for sure be for it.
To me, it's a no-brainer.
It's not about you're leaving people out. It's more about you're including all the Power 5 conferences in there for sure, and you're allowing 3 other teams to duke it out, and maybe they're more willing to take a schedule, against a Wisconsin or in Iowa or a Northwest, something like that.
Yep.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep. And then
the Big 12. Look, the Big 12 is going to weed itself out very quickly.
Yes.
In the next couple of weeks.
Yes, I agree.
And that's going to change big time. I'm fine if they want to rank Iowa 8th in the college football poll. Okay, but you can't ignore it. If Iowa just simply win, if they simply win out, you've used up your ignore card.
Yes.
And you got to realize, Jesus Christ, these guys just went through the whole Big Ten conference. They beat Northwestern at Northwestern. They beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And they beat Ohio State at a neutral site.
Right.
None of these teams were won at Kinnick. These were all on the road.
Right.
And they won all the rest of their games.
Yes.
They're in.
I agree. They have to be in. I think it would be asinine for them not to be in. So.
And they're starting to get a groundswell of people from the national media now that are kind of sitting there going, counteracting some of these pundits that sit there and discount Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're starting to get the people to come out and say, no, you need to look at Iowa.
Yes.
And they're right. You got to look at Iowa right now.
Well, you would. What you would hope that a victory over an Ohio State would do, and say like a Big Ten championship game, you would hope that would do the same thing to say like the victory this week over Oklahoma State did, or the victory over TCU did for Oklahoma State, where they jumped 10 points or 10 spots in 1 week. I mean, because going into that, if Ohio State's there, if they beat, but I mean, Ohio State's got Michigan State and Ohio State left. That's no done deal that they're going to be there.
Oh yeah, Michigan State can still be there.
Yeah.
All Michigan State has to do is win out, and they're in.
Yeah, and they own their own destiny.
So yeah. I mean, the Big 12, they're gonna cancel each other out, and that's gonna hurts their conference. Stanford and Notre Dame, that'll be an interesting game. And like I said, look, you can't ignore. Well, what would it be? Let's see. What's Iowa? 9-0. You can't ignore a 13-0 Iowa team.
Yeah. Oh, you can't. If you did, it's a damn shame.
If someone told me 5 years ago that a 13-0 Hawkeye football team won all their conference games, won all their games, and even won the Big Ten championship game, we're going to be left out of the tournament.
Right.
I would either have to say, I don't know what I would be able to say at that point.
Well, yeah.
I'd say, no way, there is.
Because let's be honest. Iowa's not Alabama, but they're also not Indiana. They have a history of being good at football.
Right. Look, the Hawks have had a bad couple of years. But before that, they were consistently in the top 25.
Right.
That's a solid program.
Right.
And it was just a matter of just trying to find the season to put it together. Because you're not Alabama and you don't have, our quarterback got hurt, let me put in my 5-star sophomore.
Right.
You're putting in the 2-star sophomore, hoping he picked up some stuff in practice.
Right.
And you're going from there.
Right.
But that's the difference. And right now, Iowa is doing really well.
Absolutely.
13-0. You can't. I just can't think of a scenario right now with the current how they're not in. I don't. The only thing that makes me nervous are the idiots that are saying Stanford and Notre Dame are better than Iowa.
Right, because they're going to vote for them no matter what.
Right. That concerns me. But, again, I think it comes down to where the Big Ten will – then it becomes Big Ten if you ignore Iowa.
Right.
It's not just you got to deal with the Iowa fans. You'll have Big Ten, and you'll even have Ohio State fans say, wait a minute.
Right.
They just beat us. They went undefeated. They should go in.
Right.
I would be the same way with any undefeated Big Ten team. If it was Northwestern or Wisconsin, I'm not going to sit there and go, nope, can't be in it.
No, I concur. Hey, it's going to be a travesty if Iowa's not in, and I still go back to as well that with Alabama too, just because they have the loss to Ole Miss. Their win against LSU is better than either of Iowa's wins. The only thing I will say is it's at home, but they lost to Ole Miss.
Yep.
That would be like if that would be like Iowa losing to Pittsburgh. They didn't lose;
right.
They won. They had their bad game and they won.
And here's the other reason why I think they wouldn't ignore a 13-0 Iowa. Is because the college football does not want that big of a controversy in only its second year.
Right. Oh, it'd be huge. You'd have an outrage coming from the Midwest. An outrage.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Because you just.
Maybe
because you obviously chose someone losing to Ole Miss. Just using that scenario, losing to Ole Miss, who then in turn lost to Memphis, and then Memphis lost to some goofy team.
Right.
No, they wouldn't want that controversy because the controversy was the BCS. Everybody called the BCS a frickin' the Boys Club series, or
Right.
That was the big cluster
Right.
And this was to solve that. Well, if you ignore a 13-0 Big Ten team, you didn't solve your problem.
None. So
you created it.
I agree. So to segue in here to the Bears before we sign off, and because they're going to start here in a little bit, I have ESPN on in front of me, and of their 9 experts picking the game, 8 of them picked the Chargers. The only one who picked the Bears was Ditka.
Well, you gotta love Ditka for that. You gotta love his loyalty. I picked the Chargers. It's just the Bears defense is just bad. And you lost Matt Forte. You don't know what you're going to get out of your rookie running back in Langford, which I have him playing on my fantasy team, so I hope it's a lot. No.
Phillip Rivers.
The Bears have to have one of the worst secondaries, and Phillip Rivers is hot.
Phillip Rivers may throw for 450.
So, yeah, and that's why the Bears lose.
Yeah.
The Bears have, they're not too bad for rebuilding.
No, I agree.
The coaching's there. It's just now getting the talent around what they want to coach.
Right.
And it's going to take time, and it's not going to be one of these Detroit Lions crap where they're fired. Matt Stafford, he won't be a quarterback for the Lions next year. The new head coach. The Bears are rebuilding.
Right.
Bears are rebuilding, and the Chargers were in the process. Was it 2 years ago when they hired whatchamacallit? So they should be, you figure what, a 3-year window to show a really good leap in your third year. I mean, they're kind of struggling, but I think they're better than theirs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And of course they're showing clips of Cutler and Rivers arguing with each other right now.
I was waiting for that. That was so long ago. I think they even made up.
Yeah. So it's going to be an ugly night. You know what? And we've got Wednesday night. We've got a lot to talk about. There's going to be I think we'll even hear a lot more by then. There's going to be a ton of Cubs news coming out over the next couple of days. We talked about it the other day. We still want to go over kind of how the IHSAA does their seeding for football, and how they send people to different spots. That was kind of funny for us this year.
Aren't they really good at doing that?
Oh, I think the same people do the college football playoff pool.
I was just going to say that. Their part-time job is to figure out how these Iowa high school teams are going to play each other, and then their full-time job is how to screw the biggest college in Iowa out of.
Yeah. So that will be an interesting discussion to have on, I think, Wednesday night.
Well, all right. Well, let's close that. We got Chicago Bear football coming up here in a few.
We do.
I'm done. Anything else for you?
I've got nothing.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll see some Cubs news. Maybe a Jordan Zimmerman signing, huh?
Zimmerman, I think, you got Zimmerman. I just saw you know what? We can talk about it Wednesday night, but Zimmerman, I could see maybe a Tyson Ross trade at some point. I don't think just with the money that's being thrown, I think Price is going to be a long shot now.
Yeah, I think he will too. I don't think the Cubs are really going to spend that high because they still don't know what you got with these young guys. You still, you did a lot. You don't suspect, but this was a rookie year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You don't want to get too ahead of yourself. So
there's
Zimmerman, the younger pitcher, then their veteran might be a Jeff Smarja, depending on how the market plays out. He might be a Cub again.
Unless, yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing: if you could get Zimmerman and Samardzija, I take that in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'm fine with that because that gives you a lot of depth.
Then that puts Hendricks as your 5 and get rid of Hamill if you can. Then trade that, get that salary off the board. And then all of a sudden you've got maybe the top starting rotation in baseball.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I could take Arrieta. I could take I could take whoever, and who knows? Depending on the Cubs situation, Arrieta might be trade bait. I know a lot of Cubs fans probably don't want to hear that, but I'm just putting that out there. Just think about it.
Yeah, I would not trade him unless you got 2 number ones. I don't trade him.
Right. I mean, it could be a heck of a package.
It'd have to be a heck of a
keep their
package.
farm system stock.
I don't want the farm system stock though. I want the major league team stocked.
No. I agree.
Yeah, at this point, I don't care about the farm system. The one thing that I saw something earlier that, you know what, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We can talk about this all night on Wednesday.
Yeah, that works for me.
All
right, man. I am out. Bears football. You are listening to QCSportsFerno.com presenting a Monday edition of ZRadio, Fighting Illini, the Hawkeyes, college football playoffs. Mike Ackerman. I'm Corey Schrader. Go Bears.
Peace.